Then it comes down to how can you roll those rents and what are the configurations of the spaces. And so then what are you paying per square foot on this thing? Oftentimes these strip centers sell as if they're the ground level of a 30-story high rise, and the pricing is radically out of control.
Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Anonymous. We're going to be taking you to the land of the cocaine cowboys, i.e. Miami, Florida. We are going to hear a little bit about Erik's Southeast tour and maybe do a little hottie-toddy action there. We're looking at a 92,000 square foot strip center or retail center on 9 acres in Coral Gables in what would be truly a irreplaceable location. So I hope you enjoy. We'll pick you guys up next week.
Welcome back in and saddle up, you cocaine cowboys. We are headed to Coral Gables, Miami, a wonderful little pocket where some shady activity occurred over the years. But now we are going to be focused on grocery-anchored retail. It would be fun to see if there's eventually a port that comes up for sale that we could do on this podcast. We could talk about all the various means of other income you might be able to collect in a market like Miami. But because it's retail and because it's probably going to be a little weird, Erik Weatherholtz is going to be our star witness here. So Elliot White, Brett Moss, Erik Weatherholtz, as mentioned, another edition of Real Estate Anonymous podcast. And Erik, before we get into the weirdness that is this Miami grocery anchored retail center, what's going on with you?
I had a fair amount of travel recently, and I had it hammered into my head how the localized nature of real estate. Did a road trip from Atlanta to Oxford, Mississippi, and you see, so on that trip, you leave, the thumping sounds of the dirty South in Atlanta, and then you start heading west, man, and things tail off really quick. We went through Huntsville, Alabama, which is pretty amazing town. It's Rocket City, USA. There's all kinds of government money there for the time being. It's on fire. Then you leave that, and there's to go from there to Huntsville, or from Huntsville to Oxford. Oxford's a super charming college town. Ole Miss is there, beautiful town square, home of William Faulkner. But between those two cities, man, it has not changed probably since 1940. And you realize how little can be going on in some parts of the world. Okay, stop tape. Next week, go to Dallas. Dallas is out of fucking control. Yeah. I mean, that place is on fire.
Yeah.
On fire. There's, some of the new stuff that's going on there, retail rents, $200 a foot. It's absolute insanity with the amount of stuff that's going on, the amount of money that's flowing, getting shoveled into that town. There's fire hoses. Yeah. There's water cannons of money pointed at that town.
Yeah.
Incredible.
There really are.
Well, Erik, we don't know how to tell you this, but you're in best and final on a driving range facility in Campbell, Texas.
Yeah, you are. That's right.
I'm aware of that, but you're in best and final, man.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Buckle up, Dallas.
Yeah.
So tons going on in Dallas. There's tons going on in Austin. Like there's all the rents in Austin, and that's true. There's been a lot of supply, but if you aren't in the real estate business, you just look at Austin, you're like, shit's booming here. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And you gents know me. I'll never miss an opportunity to punch down on people who I think are idiots. And we're going to talk real quickly about the Airbnb crowd, because my wife and I are looking at renting an Airbnb. We do it kind of every year. We'll go to somewhere in Texas, keep an eye on the portfolio, and we'll get out of Boston winters for a bit. So we're going to rent an Airbnb for a month or 2 months. And I've just pulled up Austin, and I filtered a lot of filters. I want a single family house. I want it to have some space. I want, I'm not sleeping on someone's couch, right? So I distill it down, and there's still over 1,000 listings. It says 1,000 plus. I mean, the entire city. And then you look at the home sales, you could just toggle over to Zillow and everything is for sale. It's all of these people who are like, real estate only goes up. And then it turns out it doesn't only go up. And now they're like, oh my God, what do I do? I'll put it on Airbnb. And the price for Airbnbs has come down by 40 or 50% from last year. It's been pretty surreal to watch.
Yeah, the idea of that whatever the Peter Thiel line is escaping the tyranny of competition. That Airbnb market has no idea about that. I mean, it's such a whipping. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, I wonder if the idiots pitching the TikTok Airbnb coaching courses ever contemplated what would happen.
Overlaid with massive hassle.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God, it's all the hotel bullshit with none of the economies of scale. We've talked about this 1,000 times. And the only people dumber are people converting like Motel 6s into apartments. Those two people, I'm not even convinced they should be allowed to vote or reproduce. I'm not saying definitely no, but I would question that. Like if there was a bill that said, should Motel 6 to residential conversion operators be allowed to vote? I'd be like, I don't know.
If you think about that, Elliot, if you're in either camp, you're working 24/7 to your point, so you don't even have time to reproduce. So that probably takes that off the table, since you'll be fixing leaks and dealing with people's weirdo complaints.
Could you imagine being a young single gent out on a date and explaining to a woman, yeah, I'm in real estate investor. And she goes, oh, interesting. And then you start to explain, yeah, I buy Super 8s and convert them into apartments. And she goes, wah, wah, like date over. Your odds of reproducing just went to 0. Sorry, man. All right.
Use the restroom and not come back.
Yeah, the old Irish exit.
Reminds me a little bit of a guy here in Atlanta, probably one of the more successful developer cats that I know. His first job was sort of like the night assistant at a large assisted living place in outside near Buckhead. And he would go talk about, roaming the bars, finding an attractive prospect, and inviting him back to his high rise. So he had to live in the place. He lived there for free as part of the deal. And so he would, occasionally coax a young lady back to his place, and whenever he did, there was a buzzer in his room that would go off, like if somebody had fallen or something, and like the light would flash and the buzzer would go off, and so he said that his whole trick was having them stay calm and to remain in the room, just saying he had to run down the hall, and he'd run down, jump in the elevator, take the flight of stairs down 2 steps at a time, pick up the old gal and set her back in the chair and run back to the room with a bead of sweat on his forehead saying, let's get back to where we left off.
Oh, man. That is really something.
Amazing.
Holy hell.
Let's go to Miami.
Yeah, I was going to say, on that note, let's head to Miami.
We're looking for the exit, and we found it.
Yeah, so we're going to Coral Gables, nestled among some of the country's wealthiest communities, is what the OM says here. So this is, I think it's fair to say this is a strip mall. They're calling it grocery anchored retail, but that feels really fucking generous. But the beautiful thing about these strip malls is that I don't see a scenario where the internet sort of removes the appeal of this. You've got, it's non-credit tenants, it's a random bakery, it's a dentist, it's some cell phone outlet retailer, it's a nail salon, it's a lot of it. I mean, they have a Walgreens, they have, looks like Millam's is the grocery they're talking about.
Yeah.
The Space Coast Credit Union. It's a bunch of like Class C and B feeder retail things that the community needs. I don't see a scenario where those go away. So, and then it looks like there's an out parcel kind of retail in the corner of the parking lot. So it seems interesting. It's 2 stories. You've got just a lot of neighborhood services. So Erik, this is your bread and butter. And How would you
go
look
to
at this?
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'd look at it. Go to the first picture.
Yeah, I thought that's
And
sign.
so here we're looking at, a strip center in the background that's been a little bit tarted out, but in the front is one of those large monument signs, clearly from the 1960s, that says Redbird Center. Okay, it's oversized, the kind of thing that never gets approved in Florida today. It has no tenant names on it, which is also interesting. Usually you see these big pylon signs and they've listed 50 different tenants on it. But to me, I see 1960s vintage property and Coral Gables or high money area. I'm in.
In, right?
Like that's the check it. So then there's going to be something funky, or it wouldn't be for sale. There wouldn't be it'd be rare that something like this would sell. So it looks like the funky parts out of the gate it's got a 2-level component. Part of it, you got second floor, which is always tricky in these things.
Right here.
You got an L-shaped thing, so you've got that funky corner space where there's limited visibility and the parking gets jammed up. You've got, it looks like from the aerial, these spaces are probably a little bit deeper than would be normal in today's world, but you're on a corner, you own the corner out parcel, it seems like, 2 busy roads. There's a whole lot to like on a deal like this.
Well, and so right here too, Eric, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. It looks like you have 2 drive-throughs. It looks like there's a drive-through at the Space Coast Credit Union and then also Orion, which I'm assuming is a financial services firm.
No, Orion is a gas station, which immediately makes me a little jumpy because now maybe you've got some phase 1 issues. I don't know that that's true, but.
Well, then you have, I remember the first time I ever heard this term, I was like right out of college in the banking business, and there was like gas station loans. One of these old salty dog bankers was like, yeah, one of the things you really have to look out for on these gas station loans are the sluts. And I was like, I'm sorry, is that like, help me out with that a little bit more. Are you allowed to say that in office? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's a slow leaking underground tank. And that's like the real term they use in like phase 1s or phase 2s, but it's like a 22 or 3-year-old. I was like, watch out for who?
You're like, I've heard that advice before, but
you're not a comment, man.
Right.
I was young.
Dad has said this.
I was young. Money.
I usually don't get too, every municipality is different, but for the most part, petroleum stuff is not a huge deal for a couple reasons. But one of them is it's pretty easy to clean up when you have to. But secondly, often there is a big oil company that's on the hook for something that may have happened, and you can work with them to get it cleaned up. It's far different than something like some of these other nasty things like dry cleaners, for example. That can be a good reason to walk away from a deal.
Automotive repair stuff too, right? Can get real dicey real quickly.
Some of that can be up there with like tanneries.
Yeah, right.
Metal plating, yeah,
right.
So, Eric, how are you looking at this kind of deal? Do you think I'm going to buy this and renovate the space, try and bring up the rents over a period of time? Do you think that no, this is serving the correct tenant mix with the correct vendors or retailers? Like, how does your brain think about that?
Well, first is like seeing, okay, where is my competition around here, and so where does this one fit into it? Is this the type of property that could handle maybe a little more upscale F&B. Maybe it could get a little you know, fashion component or something like that. But if once you find out, you know, how it's positioned within the market, then it's kind of like, you know, what kind of lease terms do I have to deal with? Because generally, if you've got, you know, 92,000 square feet of retail space that's visible and functional in a hyper affluent market, you know, it's all about how quick can you get the space back,
Right?
And so you know, you got this market, you got Walgreens, you just kind of going through the rent roll, Ace Hardware. You know, how much of that stuff do you want to keep? How much of it can roll? And you know, a property like this, you probably got those type people paying rents in the, well, we'll pull up the rent roll, but I would imagine those people are maybe in the 20s, and then the shop spaces are maybe in the 40s. Let's take a gander. And then it comes down to how can you roll those rents and what are the configurations of the spaces. And so then what are you paying per square foot on this thing? Oftentimes these strip centers sell as if they're the ground level of a 30-story high rise, you know, and the pricing is radically out of control. But, you know, let's take a look. We don't have any, I guess
I only have a price here.
Rents on here, yeah. But I think something like this, man, if you could get this, gosh, I'll go out, depending on how long those leases are, if you could be in this thing at $500 a foot, it's a lot of money, but I think you could be happy at a number like that.
9 acres at this location in Coral Gables is like a gold mine.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right. Is it even getting valued as a strip mall, or are people going to buy it as a covered land play?
Yeah, that's the trick that you get into. But I would imagine these leases probably go out, you know, 24 years.
It says the WALT is 7.8 years.
Right. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, but you're like due north of the University of Miami. You're right by Riviera Country Club, which I'm pretty sure there's still a PGA event played there. Maybe that's the West Coast. But anyway, I mean, this is a prime.
Right, you remember that, right? You remember at Riviera?
Yeah, that's one of the clubs that I'm a member at, yeah.
That and MacArthur and Augusta and a few others. That makes sense.
Right, Augusta for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have a picture with a green jacket on, and that maybe is for another episode, but I was hosted by some folks who were renting a house, took me to the Masters. It was great. It was their third or fourth year at this house, and we'd had a lot of fun night one, which sounds about right for a guy's weekend. And they were like, there's a green jacket in this house. And I said, I'm sorry, could you just point out the closet that it's in? And they were like, it's locked. And I said, well, I'm going to do this or you're going to do it. That thing is getting open right now. So the gentleman that owned the house had passed away, which is the only way you get a jacket off property. But it was like a 50 long, so I looked really, really good in it. It fit me like a glove.
Fit me like a glove. So, Eric, at $500 a foot, this thing is $46 million.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. I'm gonna guess the. We don't know this, but I'm gonna guess the NOI is about $2 million on this thing.
Oh, even better. It's 3.3, I think, right?
Oh, we got an NOI.
I think. But
where? I don't see it on the screen.
I think on the e-blast from the broker, it was. I make a lot of stuff up, as you guys know, but I think that. Let me just validate that comment.
Well, that gets interesting. So if that's true, you got a NOI of 3.3 plus, I think, some upside that we all believe in above and beyond that. Yeah, as is NOI is 3.3 million, 100% occupied.
I was totally wrong. So yeah, that would be somebody's going to pay more than $50 million for this. I would say it's a $60 million deal.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so you're up to $700 a foot.
Yeah, it's $6.5 million an acre.
What do you think an acre of? Right. What do you think an acre of undeveloped land in Coral Gables goes for?
I think the trick here is the zoning is probably. You got a lot of single family. It looks like around this, which is great for what it is, but maybe the density is. Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I'm all in.
Okay, so we're buyers,
Yep.
Buyers. This
right?
is one you
This
want to
is-
have.
This is core real estate based on being an irreplaceable location
Yeah,
with durability and cash flow, right?
Right. So your offer needs to consider, roofs and ACs. If the roof looks pretty baked from the street view, but you just sort of factor in a reasonable amount of capex. You expect that you're going to pay a number that's going to make you a little bit nauseous, and then you put it in a drawer and you forget about it for 10 years, and you are thrilled with this buy.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the grandkids think you're really smart.
Yep. That makes sense. Okay. Mine won't think that about me because all I will have is some incredibly dangerous housing projects, but they will certainly think that about the retail guy. So. Okay. Well, I'm a buyer. We ringing the bell?
Three rings here.
Okay.
Might have been more than
Ding-a-ling.
3 buyers across the board.
maybe ring my bell.
Okay. Gents, this was fun. We'll catch you boys next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.